This is a breakdown of the flagstaff pop-up camper. I always like to work from the outside in. So kind of step one to this thing is everything on the outside is Velcro. So we want to make sure that we do kind of a walk around and just kind of un-Velcro everything. So we start at the back here. There'll be little flaps underneath. And you just pull those and let them hang. And then kind of working your way around. There'll be Velcro on the outside of the poles as well. You just want to tuck those behind. So we'll go all the way around, just kind of unflapping and un-Velcroing everything. Just tuck them on behind, come on around. Now underneath, there will also be a little bungee cord here that kind of helps hold things in place, and they'll have one on each side. So you just want to undo that and let it hang. Once you've done that, you can kind of pull up from each corner so that you'll be able to roll the beds inside. So just kind of take the corners off of each side here. Alright, so once you get all of the Velcro undone, and tucked behind, then we're going to move to the door. The door also has Velcro that helps keep it in place. So we'll take those off as well, and now we can actually start working on the door. So this is where we may need to come inside for this one. Alright. Now the door is a little tricky the first couple times that you do it. It has these little things that you remember from the pop-up video in video 1. You're just going to turn those so that the door is now free. And it's got them all the way around, so you want to make sure they're all done. This will loosen up the door. And the way that I like to do this is a little tricky. Again, it has these little sliders on the roof. These will slide back to keep it in place. So we're going to kind of grab in the middle and pull it up and slide it back, and you can see that the tracks keep it in place. Once you're here, if you're doing this again by yourself, there'll be these little snaps. You can kind of rest it on your head if you need to, and you're just going to snap it in place, and that'll hold it towards the ceiling. So again, this takes a little bit of practice, but after you do it a couple times, it'll be pretty easy. Also up here at the front, you'll see this little flap. You can tuck it right in, and it's got a spot that it's going to rest where you'll put those little knobs. Just put it in place, give it a little wiggle, and then turn it. So we are now done with the door. All right. So secondly, we're going to start working on the inside of the cabin here. So this is where, if you have any kind of fold-up chairs, anything that you just want to keep in the camper, just go ahead and throw it underneath there so that it can stay. So we'll start on the left side. So if you're looking at the sink, it'll be on your left. And this is where we just start pulling up these different, the different padding that we have here. And it's going to go right underneath as well. So we have the corner piece, and it'll tuck nicely right under the seat and kind of keep all of your junk in place. Just get it situated here. All right, once you've got those in place, if you remove the extra padding, you'll see that there'll be a wood piece. It's hinged. It's kind of hard to get out, so just grab it, flip it right over like that. Now, you can put all of these little pieces back in place. They all have a spot. Kind of goes together like a puzzle. Just kind of work with it. That's what that side looks like. So this side is actually ready to go. The next side is you're going to take the outdoor table that I pulled from outside, and it's going to lay right inside here. And this is the same thing that if you needed an extra bed, these will just slide right in. And now you got a good bed for a kid or somebody that's not quite as heavy as I am. And that side's ready to go. And now you can also store your junk. As long as it is lower than this lip, you can actually store things in here as well. So the bed will slide right over on top of that. There'll also be beds in here. We took them out just to kind of give them some fresh air. And the next step that we're going to do is right up here at the top. This is the pole that holds the tent part of the camper up. You're just going to give it a nice pull or a nice jab, and it'll come right off of that little clip. And when you bring that down, it's going to fold up quite nicely. And this is where you'll just take these poles, and if the bed were in here, just put them right underneath the bed. So there's that side. If we come back over towards the left, we're going to do the same thing here. So just give it a quick jab. It'll pop right off and put it right underneath the bed. So as far as the inside goes, we're pretty much complete. I'll have the video step outside. Again, any kind of junk you want to throw underneath or keep kind of in the camper. Now just kind of a word to the wise about this sink. If you have used the sink and maybe you brought an air mattress or something like that, you might get a little water spill out of this. So sometimes I'll put down a towel just on the floor because it's going to leak a little bit just from the rest of the water that's in the hose that goes out towards the outside. If you have an air mattress and you have one of those the pumps, I like to put the pump right down here into the drain, and it'll blow the rest of the water out of there so that you don't get a mess on the floor. Just something to be aware of. Now once you get that, you can flip this thing right over. So we'll flip them over, and I forgot to zip this corner up over here. So just make sure all of your everything is zipped up nicely, and now we're really ready to start collapsing the camper. All right, so we've got everything undone. We've got all of the different Velcro that is undone. We've got the sink flipped over. You can see it resting there. And if you need to store things in the camper, you can just go ahead and slide things under there. You'll find pillows and sleeping bags and all that kind of stuff fit nicely under here. If you have a cooler, that cooler will also fit right in here quite nicely, right in this part. All right, so the next step is, let's go to the back of the camper. Now the way that I like to do this is there's also a place for the door, as you saw in video 1. It just kind of hangs here and swings. We're going to put this little door on as well. Now it slides to the right, so it'll come right off, and it's freestanding. And we're going to go around to the side. We're going to put this door right in these little holes. So you'll see, you might have to give it a little wiggle, just kind of line it up, and that thing will close just quite nicely. All right. Next, again at the back of the camper, once we've got the door removed, it'll allow you to get under here. Now the way that I like to do this is you put a little back into it. You can kind of back up right underneath this thing, and you're going to lift up with your back, so it won't be that heavy. You can see it's kind of freestanding. So then you can grab each of these poles, and they'll come out of the clips that are on the back of the bumper, and then just give them a pull, and you can crawl right out from underneath this thing. Now you don't have to go in the camper to store these things. You just come around to the side. You have access to the bed that will be underneath, so you just lift the mattress, slide those things right underneath so that they are there. Also in the back, you can start tucking in some of the tent material. And we're going to do that on each side before we slide this thing in. Just kind of tuck it in because it's going to slide right into itself, kind of like a transformer. So now we're ready to push this portion of the bed in. You might have to give it a little wiggle or lift up on it just a little bit and give it a push. Just like a big tray, slides right in. Make sure that your little tab that you pull it out with is tucked in. We want it to create a good seal when we bring the camper down. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. We come around to the front. And this one, however, you know, my ground's not real level here, but again, kind of the same thing. Just kind of get under here so that your back's up against the platform. Lift up and they'll pop right out of those holes. And And just like we did in the back, you can grab them and then just crawl out from underneath that thing. Again, we don't have to do in the camper. We'll lift up the bed, slide those things right in, and then we're going to start tucking again. Anything that's kind of hanging out, just kind of tuck it in. So when we push this one in, it doesn't pinch any of the tent material. All right. Once you've got that in, we're ready to slide the bed in. You can see that it hangs at an angle just a little bit, so you may have to lift up. Make sure that's all tucked in. And this thing's going to slide right in just like the other one did. And you'll notice on the inside, it's going to slide right over the sink. So let's take a look inside and kind of see what's happening. The two platforms slide right in over the sink quite nicely. A lot of times I like to store things in the sink itself. So, you know, toilet paper, dishwashing rags, things like that can just kind of live in here so that you don't have to keep doing it. All right. So the other piece of this that we like is we can start cranking this thing down. So as you crank it down, just go kind of slow. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. I'll cut that piece out. You'll notice that these poles have these blocks on them, and this is in case the cord that rolls this thing up were ever to break. If it were ever to fall, it would only fall on these safety supports. So the way to get these off is lift up and pull out from the bottom, and they'll slide right out as well. So that's one of them. There'll be two of these. Same thing goes, at this point you'll see the mattress here. You just lay it right underneath that mattress. We'll go to the other side and do the same thing with this one. So pull up, pull out, and it'll slide right out of spot. So now we don't want anybody in the camper at this point, because if that cord were to break, this would be a headache for somebody. So again, we'll come around to the door side and just slide that support. When there's a mattress in here, just slide it right underneath the mattress. So you have all of your pieces and everything contained here at arm's reach as you're tearing this thing down or setting this thing up for the next time. Now also, this is where I normally keep this in the camper. All of your tools you want to keep inside of that camper. Don't leave anything at the campsite. Make sure that you have these, because without this you'll never get it down. So this is our crank. It goes right in this hole in front of the tank. So you'll slide that in there, and then same rules apply. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, and just start cranking it down. So you'll want to take it down a little better than halfway. So at this point, notice that we got a lot of overlap here. You want to go ahead and do a walk around again and kind of tuck everything in. So I'm going to go all the way around the camper and push all of the tent material inside of itself. Just give it a good tuck. Make sure nothing's getting pinched. Now at this point, there will also be a cord here. This is what gives you power, and you may have seen it in the first video. I did these at different times. So this yellow plug will be in here. This is what provides power to your lights, to the air conditioner, all of the different plugs that you have to charge your phone and run blenders and stuff inside. So you just want to pull that out. And there's a compartment for it here. So just kind of let it hang and tuck that right in. Do not push it all the way in the hole. That's kind of a headache. You just want to get it in there so that little door will close. All right. Once that closed, we can start cranking it down a little bit more. Make sure everything's tucked in. And we're going to continue going on down. Right before this thing gets all the way down, just enough so you can get your hand in there, we're going to do one more walk around, just making sure everything is again tucked in. for the final compression of the camper. Just enough to get your hand in there, making sure things aren't getting pinched. Kind of roll it in. All right. Get that under there, and go ahead and take it on down at this point. All right, so you might want to give it a little push on each end just to make sure that it's closed. We'll do the same thing on the back side. This will keep any of the water out of this thing, just making sure it's sealed up nice and tight. Now at this point, you can see that it has these little clasps. We want to put the clasp on, and it just flips up to lock it in place. And there's 4 of those. So we'll make sure that we do all 4 corners. Good. Let's lock it on down. Now the last piece that I like to do, once I get all the clasps in place, just to make sure that it's nice and tight, is then give it like a half a turn back up, maybe not even a half, about a quarter turn up to the right, just to get that nice and tight. That way all of your seals we can make sure are in place. Take the crank out, and it has a place inside the camper where we keep all of our tools. So at this point, if you want to come on this side, you'll see a little door here. This is where we keep all of the tools. So we'll open that. This is where I keep my hoses, all of the different tools. Now don't take off at this point. There will be another crank in here. And this is what's going to help level your camper. So as you're sleeping on each side so that it doesn't rock back and forth, you'll notice that there'll be a level here. This will be down on all 4 corners. Remember the setup video? So before you hook up your camper, just make sure that you take this crank and crank up those little feet all the way till they're tight. Again, take your tool, make sure you don't leave it at the campsite. Very important. And that goes right back into where we keep all of the different tools. Now at this point, you're really ready to back your car up. Let me show you a little bit about this crank here. If you need to run it up, a lot like you would on a boat, just turn this thing until it's above your trailer hitch. Have somebody help back you in if you haven't done it before. And once your ball goes in here, you'll run this back down. And I would go ahead and suggest to run the pole that the trailer sits on all the way up so that it's not dragging while you're driving. Once your ball is in the coupler, I'm just going to lock it in place. I do keep a little pin in here as well. So you can see I just keep a little pin. That way when the ball goes in, lock it down, put your pin back down. That thing's not going anywhere. Don't forget to hook up your tail lights. I do keep them right here. So you should have easy access to plug into the tail light. Make sure you put your pin back in when it's locked onto the ball. Go press your brakes, make sure that the lights are working on the trailer, and Bob's your uncle.